Hello, Move Nation, and welcome to another episode of United We Move podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Beckner, and today I have a special guest, Mr. Matt Gunby, aka Pat Dunby, aka Show Gunby. And Matt, of course, is a co-owner of Move Functional Fitness, and he joined us as a member in summer of 2009, and then later became a co-owner in early 2011. And at that point, we were really growing as a gym, and CrossFit was growing, of course. And then we just decided that it was time for us to expand our operation. And so we went on a search for a new gym or new gym space, and that was 185 Laredo Drive. And so, Matt, can you tell me a little bit about what you were doing before you decided to become a gym owner?
So before I got involved with the gym, I owned a tool company, a pneumatic tool repair and parts distributor. It was something that my grandfather had started back in, I think, like 1947. That's what I was doing. The industry had changed a lot. I was burnt out, didn't want to do it anymore. So I just was really lucky to kind of fall into the situation that I did, getting involved with the gym.
So you had a lot of experience running a business already. You'd been with Tool Service for how long?
20-ish years.
Right, 20 years.
Yeah, so small business. That's probably the only similarity. The business size is completely different, so I did kind of a complete 180, but definitely glad I did it. It came along at the perfect time. So
yeah. So you'd already had experience buying a business and then also selling a business, coming into owning CrossFit East Decatur at the time. And you also had a lot of experience just, in that industry. It's a lot of hands-on, do-it-yourself kind of stuff. And that's kind of what we were about as well in CrossFit, was this hands-on, do-it-yourself operation. Back then, Rogue was not big. If you went to the Southeast Regionals, which we did often, the pull-up bars there were custom made by the guy who was running the event. So it's like we were still in those early stages of there is no such thing as a pull-up bar rig. So it's like we had to build our own stuff. Our first pull-up bars were built from 6x6s and plumbing pipe. Right. And so when we decided we were going to move, we wanted to get something kind of custom for that space. And so there was nothing out there, so we had to build it ourselves. So can you talk a little bit about maybe where you learned how to do all the things that you do at the gym? Like you do a ton of maintenance, you do a ton of building on top of all the other coaching activities and other, necessary things that we do.
Well, first of all, owning a small business, you learn by necessity. You learn to do things just simply for financial reasons. I was also fortunate that my dad, he's one of those, he can fix, build, repair anything. I mean, and so I learned a lot from him. And then, in my previous business, we, because we serviced and sold so many different power tools, by default, I learned how to use them. And then, I got a lot of experience, mostly from my dad and from that business. And, also just that mentality that, no, I'm not going to pay someone else to fix that. I can fix that. And, and wanting to learn how it works and learning how to fix it. And so I think I just kind of got that from him. So, I remember when I first started at the old gym, one of the things I actually really liked about it was because you could, when I walked in, I could tell you had made everything. The little parallel bars were made out of PVC pipe.
Yeah.
You glued them together. The boxes, everything. So that's, I love all the new stuff, but I think that's also cool that's kind of how it started. People just kind of, build what you need.
Right. I think that you could see the passion that Shayna had when she started it. You could see, it's like, it's just whatever you've got, that's what we're going to use, and we're going to get a good workout out of it. And I think we just tried to carry that over when we moved 3 years later. So I think I see a lot of similarities in you as I see in myself. You had a family operation. My grandfather started our family business not quite so early. His started in the 70s. My dad joined on, became CEO of that company. I was probably going to go into that same business at some point. But also, our parents are of similar age. I think they have similar philosophies, similar skill sets. They both can operate almost any type of machinery, and they
Right.
build stuff. And I learned construction from my dad, and I learned that do-it-yourself mentality from him as well. So I don't know if that's a good thing that we both have similar.
Yeah, sometimes when we're stuck on a project for 2 or 3 days, and we're like, we could have paid someone to do this, and then it's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's hard to break that habit.
Uh-huh.
I think for them it was a generational thing too. It's just kind of what they did. You know,
In 2011, like I said, we were expanding. CrossFit was huge and growing. And of course, CFED was growing at the time as well. So we decided to move. And, originally we were just going to expand to our next door. We were just going to pick up the extra space on New Street, double in size. And that would have given us, like, I don't know, 5,000 square feet or something like
Right.
that. Maybe
I
6,000,
think
somewhere in that range.
right.
And of course, that is city of Decatur. That's Decatur proper, and retail or real estate there. Those are retail prices, and it's super freaking expensive. So we weren't going to stay there for that space for that price. And so we went on the search, found Laredo Drive, tons of warehouse space over there, and of course, Laredo is 10,000 square feet. It's ginormous. It's 4 times as big as what we were at. Can you talk a little bit about that process of finding Laredo and then
Well,
eventually moving in?
Yeah, so actually when we were looking, we really weren't looking for 10,000 square feet. If I remember right, we wanted about 5 or 6. It was really the ideal size for what we do. But at the time, the larger spaces, the square foot was so cheap, it just made sense to get that building. I don't know if you remember, but there were some buildings that were really more the size that we wanted. There were fewer of them, but they cost more.
Yeah.
So we were like, why not just get this space? We knew at the time it was more space than we needed, but it just worked out at the time. So yeah.
So when we first looked at it, there were a bunch of walls and junk in there, and we just had to kind of come up with our vision. I talked about the pull-up rig earlier, so we pulled from our members, like we always do. Grant and Caitlin own Henry Signs, and they offered to help us build the pull-up rigs. They're a sign company,
Right.
and not a fitness equipment manufacturer. But I worked through a ton of designs with Grant, and eventually settled on the one that we came up with that 40-foot by 9-foot pull-up rig.
It's one of a kind.
One of a kind.
Yeah.
That now lives in North Carolina, I believe. But yeah, so we leaned on them for help to put that together for us, and we installed it. And then we had a moving day. We went from needing to move to moving in like a month. Signing the lease to moving, and we moved the entire gym, other than that pull-up rig, in one day. Yeah. And, so like we had members come out and help us. It was, we even did a workout that day and then did the move. I mean, that's how little equipment we had to go. And, Eddie, I talked about earlier in a podcast, Eddie wasn't even a member. He helped us. We had tons of members come out and help us. So can you tell us about the importance of community and helping us achieve the things that we want to do as a gym?
Yeah, even now it's the community that we have is so great. They will step up anytime they know that we need help and offer help. And I remember that day we had a big crew show up to help us move. That was a much smaller move, but with all the people that we had, it's compared to what we're going through right now, it seemed really simple.
Right.
Because, you're moving from a small space to a really big space. So you can that made it a little easier too. So
9 years passed between today and that moment. But this year, I mean, we made a ton of changes at the gym. We've been working with a mentor, so that's kind of switched our focus on how we're running things on the business side. But also, we had almost 12 years of equipment, definitely 9 years of equipment in there that we were ready to kind of switch over. And we got rid of the pull-up bars that we loved so much and installed a new setup altogether, new equipment throughout most of the gym. And we'd been working on that since really December or November, like getting things in place so that we could do that. And then definitely in January, we started going full steam ahead in that direction. And I think we finally started getting settled in end of February. Right.
And
then maybe a little bit into March. And then all of a sudden, COVID pandemic hits and we're making decisions to relocate. And we had just put all the work into installing all this stuff. And now we've got to take it down again and move across the street.
Right.
So what are you feeling right now, or what is that process like for you?
It's like a punch in the throat, because I mean, I was a little beat down after all the work that we had already done.
Yeah.
And here we are. We're doing, but it is what it is. I think that, I see at some point this is going to end up being a really great thing. I mean, it's been challenging, obviously, since March, but we're making it through, and I think that the move is going to end up being great. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it'll feel good to get moved in and settled and back to where we were.
So Joe Wintersheet asked me this the other day when we let him in over there. He helped us move some stuff over there, and he was asking me. And I don't know if I had a good answer at the time, but he was saying, well, what about this new space is your favorite thing? Or what about this new space is so great? And so maybe you have a good answer or have an answer for yourself.
Well, the more time that I spend over there, I like everything about it better.
Yeah.
Now, so me coming from what we have over at the old space,
like 2,500.
So
yeah.
For me, it feels like something in between what we had, which I loved, and that's when I started and kind of fell in love with everything. So that, and then our new space, I think that the size is perfect for what we do. Besides the business aspect, it just makes sense. You and I both know it's like financially, it's the right fit for us all the way across the board. But it's not just that. I like the feel of it. I like the size of it. I think once we're there, it's going to feel like home pretty quick for everybody. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, when we decided to get all the new Rogue equipment and all that installed, we set it up in a way that intentionally made the space feel smaller.
Right.
We wanted this space that was more community driven for a workout. We have the sprawling 10,000 square feet, and we'd hold a class, and some people would want to be, have their own 500 or 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And it's 30, 40 feet away from the coach, and it's like, okay, it's hard to run a class. It's hard to feel connected. And so we said, okay, we're going to put these two rigs on the side. We're going to have this space in the middle, and we're going to hold class here. And we can fit a ton of people in a class, and we all feel a little bit more connected. And so we were trying to get back to this, like we started a CFED, 1.0, where all you had was 2,500 square, not even that much space, not even 2,500 square feet of workout space. We could only fit 10 or 12 people in the gym working out, and somehow we would fit 20 in at a time, and we're all working out together on top of each other.
And it worked.
And it was great, and you're sweating on each other and high-fiving, and I know that's not, something you want to do during COVID, but, it was just a huge part of the community was that you felt that energy of someone working out next to you and suffering with you.
Yeah.
And I was joking earlier about it's a little bit of like a Goldilocks thing. Like, it's like this one's too small, this one's too large, and, maybe we're moving into this one's just right. and we'll be able to set this up in a way that it's still a large space. I mean,
Sure.
we've got 5,000 square feet of workout space. It's still a big place.
Right.
So it's going to be set up in a similar way where we're encouraging that community bond of exercise, and you're not just going to go off on your own and do your own thing and hope the coach comes by to see you.
Right. And that's what it's all about. That's what, what we started as a community. And you definitely lose that a little bit in that giant space. So, but you're right. I mean, we went into, when we remodeled, how can we essentially make our workout space smaller? So,
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of memories stick out to you in those 9 years? So we've done a lot of things, held a lot of events, in-house competitions, out-of-house competitions. I don't know how many thousands of people have come through the gym.
Right.
Certifications, all sorts of things. So what kind of sticks out to you?
9 years is a long time, so there's tons of memories.
Right. We've
Mostly,
forgotten more than we remember.
mostly it is the people. I've have lifelong friendships and relationships now, and I know that I met them in the space. So
Right.
there's going to always be that kind of connection. I mean, even though at the end of the day, it's just a building wherever we're at, but you remember meeting all those people. Yeah, all the so many individual things happen, whether they're funny things or emotional things, but it's yeah, it's a little nostalgic thinking back all the
Right.
stuff that happened, and then but I would say the people. We had some really great events there. We talked about the year that Reebok, we partnered with Reebok and did the Barbells for Boob event. That was a huge event. That was
that was
like
big.
400 people, I think,
Yeah,
there.
tons
And they
of
had
people showed
the
up.
truck and vendors, and that was a lot of fun. For me personally, what stands out early on was, at the time, Shayna was doing a lot of the games training stuff, and I was her so-called training partner.
Right.
Maybe not quite at the level, but, I tried to stay with her, and I just remember, a lot of time we spent up there, doing her games training stuff, and that kind of stands out. And just lots of different individual events
Right.
that we did.
What about any certifications or seminars that we've held there? Are there any in particular that stand out to you?
Yeah, I always liked having Carl.
Pally, yeah.
When he's been twice, 3 times,
Three
at
or
least
four?
twice.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
Yeah, so those stick out because those were always great. We had Glenn Penlay did the weightlifting weekend. That was a good one, and I think we had L1 maybe once or twice, at least once.
Once, yeah.
That was good. And then we did some competitions too, some affiliate league, I think.
Yeah,
stuff.
we held quite a few of those.
That was pretty big for a minute there back in a few years back. But
Anything in particular about the L1?
the L, well, since you brought it up, this is where, as many people at the gym are aware of, there was a, in my mind at least, I had a date with Christmas Abbott
Yeah.
at Community
Took her to
Barbecue.
your favorite spot?
When I say date, she's probably completely unaware that it was a date. Maybe that's just in my head. But yeah, she was actually a coach at the time, an L1 coach. And when she was there that weekend, super nice, came up, introduced herself, and, it was just a really fun weekend. And, we went to lunch and all that. And as the years have progressed, the story has been embellished.
It's a little epic
year
now.
after year after year. But yeah, so
And to be clear, you two weren't the only two at Community Q.
No, but we don't have to bring that part up. But,
okay.
Yeah. So yeah. But that was certainly memorable.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a lot going on within the CrossFit community right now, and affiliates are de-affiliating, and people are either rallying around CrossFit or rallying around the former affiliates. As a CrossFit affiliate, as an independent CrossFit affiliate, we are allowed to choose our own path and decide the direction that we want to go as a gym. And we had kind of grown away from the message that CrossFit was promoting for a while, from like 2013 at least through 2016. We had kind of decided that what they were saying through their platforms didn't line up with what we were saying to our members. And so it was time for us to rebrand. And we did that in 2016. And that was an exciting time. I was really nervous about it. This was Shayna's big idea. And I was nervous about changing what we had built, which is what a rebrand is. I was nervous about that. And eventually I was dragged into it. And I don't know how you felt about it, but it was something I really didn't want to do, but I was going to support her in it. And we really just like came together and started working on these business practices and started like promoting this thing and really like diving into it and creating all these changes. And it turned out to be just like, I think one of my favorite things about what we've done over the last 12 years was creating this brand of Move. And then you and I have been developing it over the last 3 years to mold it into more of what we want. And so maybe you can discuss that rebrand a little bit and about kind of the direction we've gone since.
Yeah, I probably felt kind of like you did. I was a little nervous about the whole thing, and at the time it was everyone wanted to be CrossFit and the brand, everyone wanted the brand. And, I was a little bit nervous about it, but I was fine with it at the same time. It's like, I trust her vision, what she had, and, we're like, let's do it. Yeah, I think it's turned out to be great. Mm-hmm. I like, kind of having our own identity. Yeah. I love the CrossFit community. I love the local community. I love the global community. A lot of what they do, and still is great to me. But I do remember at the time that it was getting a little difficult to have people that were in our area, they were seeing this for something that it really wasn't, and they were hesitant to even come in and see what we were about. So that helped. Just the name change. People would just come in, find out what we were about. They would join, and you might, a month later, like, well, you're doing CrossFit, right? Something that you were terrified to do before, or said you would never do, and now you're doing it and you love it. So, we kind of got the best of both worlds, really. Right. I mean, we were still affiliated and, doing all we kind of figured out how we can get the best from each side. So, yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about what we've been doing as far as the brand for the last 3 years? We've kind of latched onto this fitness community idea, born to move, united we move. And then, like I was saying earlier, we've gone through this process of working with a mentor and we're just really drilling down on all of our processes and our values and our mission. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that as well.
I feel like and you can tell me, a lot of what was happening was the sport had gotten so big, right? And that was what people were starting to identify. And we, and Shannon knew, and I think probably when she started, she was kind of ahead of the curve on, the most important thing that we do here is movement and moving correctly and not so much, competition. So rebranding gave us the freedom to we're going to identify what we are, what we do, and not let someone else, do it. And that, and that can always change too. Right. It gives us the freedom to, evolve and change and make it, what we want to make it. So again, I was a little hesitant at first, but now I'm the same. I really like it. I like the, being able to kind of mold it into what we want it to be. So
yeah, I think identity is a big part of that. And when we rebranded, I was very much identified with CrossFit East Decatur, CFED, and CrossFit. So for me, that was, it's a part of who I am. When you're suddenly faced with, oh, well, this is maybe not right. When you're suddenly faced with that, that can be challenging, because it's who you think you are. I can't imagine what it was like for Shayna because she was a CrossFit Games athlete. And so for her to completely shift her identity, that was probably even more challenging. So I think that was like maybe what made me come around a little bit. And then over the past 3 years, I think we're starting to realize that the identity is not as important as the value and as the mission. So it's like, yes, we are movers, and this is we do CrossFit, but really what we do is we support people and we help people grow stronger and learn more about themselves. And the actual exercise is not quite important. And what that thing is called is not so important as the actual doing of it, right? So I think just learning all of that and really drilling down into that over the last 3 years, and particularly the last 6 or 7 months, has been important for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's and that's what's been so tough is because the changes that we were making are, I feel like, we're really positive and things were great, and then March hit, and so here we are.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about how we've handled the last few months? I mean, we've built a huge community, or the community has built itself even, and they're obviously super supportive, and they're going to try to support us in many ways, or as best as they can. So how do you feel about how we've tried to support them over the last few months?
I actually feel really good about it. As we've put a lot of work into it. It's been, everyone's been sheltered and at home, and so you don't really see what's going on, but that there's been a lot of behind the scenes work, and we put a lot of effort into it. And I think we talked about it before, when this first happened, is, we don't want to just let this thing go and then 2 months from now going, well, we should have done this, or I think we jumped on it pretty quick. And, we've gotten good feedback from everybody, that they seem pretty happy. So.
All right, so we're preparing for our move over to 202 Laredo, and obviously this is a big process for us right now, and we got a lot of stuff to move, we got a lot of stuff to set up, and we're giving ourselves 4 days instead of 1 day to get this whole move in like we did last time. And of course, we've been working on it for the last several months anyway. So what are you looking forward to doing in that new space?
Once everything's in there?
Yeah. Once it's set up, once we're rocking and rolling, what are you looking forward to most?
The two obvious. I'm ready to work out for one, and get back to working out. Moving I've kind of, gotten off track just a little bit. We've been so busy, and then I'm excited about coaching a class there. Working with some, one-on-one clients in the new space is going to be really cool. I think the flow of the class and the space is going to end up being ideal for what we are trying to do.
Yeah, I think just like, at our current space, there's a lot of opportunities for new memories. And so I asked our clients to send me a bunch of stuff. I asked them to send me what their favorite memories were from 185 and favorite moments at Move and CFED. And a lot of those are, they kind of tell a similar story, and it's about their first days or their first pull-ups or their first muscle-ups or these firsts. And I'm curious if you could tell some stories or tell some favorite memories from 185.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I had a couple of questions for my classes. The same. They, I think one day I asked them, "Do you remember your first workout? If this was where you joined in this space?" And they all do. They remember it. It's like it has that much impact. I think a lot of people come in so nervous or something, but
Yeah.
they remember the movements. They remember who was there, and that's kind of how I was with the old space. I do remember my first day in there, walking in, and it was Shayna and Brooke, and I kind of did a little intro workout with them. So, but as far as at 185, 9 years, it's a long time,
Yeah.
and the great thing is, we take a lot of pictures, and we always have. And just recently I started looking back through some of the archives, and gosh, there's so many great memories that we have there that, again, fortunately we have photographs. For me, again, a lot of the days that I spent working out with Shayna, I'll always remember. That was, good times. And then there was specific events that still make me laugh. We had one day we decided to set up a wrestling ring, some chairs, and we had a little WrestleMania, and some pretty funny photos from that. I know it was Damon and Jazz and Lauren and Mariana. So that was a lot of fun. And then Devon's Wad. We shot the Devon's Wad.
Yep.
If you haven't seen that, check it out.
Yep.
devonswad.com. I don't even know if that's a website.
Right.
I'm going to plug it anyway.
There's a YouTube.
Yeah,
You can find a YouTube channel.
YouTube channel. That was fun. We've done lots of really cool photo shoots there. We've had Pat come in, Pat Molnar, a professional photographer. And what's cool about that is those photos keep showing up everywhere. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, I recognize that, Jim. That's, so the photo shoots, and then lots of other, Hell's Kitchen for me. The back corner, it's kind of famous. It's the hottest part of an already incredibly hot gym.
So what first did you have at 185?
The first day that I came in, I was terribly deconditioned, and I was pretty intimidated to be there, right? And so when you walk in and, your first interaction is with Shayna and Brooke, who are both just, these two badass.
But that was at the old place.
That was the old. Oh, you're talking about
Yeah.
185. 185.
Yeah. I mean, you can talk about that too, but
185. The first memories are the work that we put into it, moving in. Like you said, when we went over there and looked at it, it was just walls, and I remember, painting and setting up, which I really enjoy. I mean, I really like it. This last time has been, kind of caught us off guard. We didn't know it was coming, but it's the work we put into it. I don't even remember like the first workout or anything like that.
Yeah, I had to look it up.
I don't. Yeah.
But it was sea lions.
Was it?
Yeah.
Sea lions.
Yep, it was sea lions.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, right.
I can just see the wheels turning in Shayna's head.
Yeah, it's definitely a great space for sea lions.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I think we were the only place that.
And overhead carries back in the day. We used to do those a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Barbell carries. We
Yeah.
got some funny moments from those.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Probably can't talk about.
No, there's individual moments, and then a lot of those I shared with when Damon was there, and some really funny stuff. And I don't know that I would want to just things that happen with clients and
Not repeated on a podcast.
Not repeated on the podcast, but I'll never forget. I mean, they were just funny stuff.
Some firsts that I remember for you. I mean, obviously you started coaching at the new gym. You weren't coaching before.
Right.
And I don't actually remember when you started coaching, or when you got your level 1. But I do remember we used to do group fundamentals. And I remember letting you coach wall balls, and it was honestly hilarious.
I'm sure.
It was hilarious
I'm
for
sure.
me because it's like, you just hadn't had the experience of coaching before, and so you were really nervous, and you were just you were just repeating like points of performance. You're like, all right, hip crease below knee, throw the ball to the wall, catch it, got it.
Yeah.
And then it was like class over.
So for me, it's like I've always been terrified of public speaking, even in a small group. So that was the biggest hurdle for me to overcome. I mean, my last business, I never had to talk to anybody.
Right.
And I kind of, I was comfortable. So
Yeah.
me standing in front of people was, and still, I still feel like some days
Sure.
there's this, it's way better than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time where, we were like, oh, maybe let's get my L1. I would like to try and see, let's see if we can do this. And Shayna one day I didn't even know it was coming. All right, Matt's going to teach you how to do air squats. I mean, it's the most simple, basic. And it was like, to me, it was the equivalent of, when my dad taught me how to swim, he picked me up and he threw me in the pool.
Yeah.
And that old school, I'm sure that's not correct anymore, but
Sure.
that's the way, so I was like, oh my gosh, I was terrified and it was terrible.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, this was so bad that I just can barely.
And you didn't quit.
I didn't quit, and the more the more experience it gets easier, and once you feel like you kind of know everything and you're pretty confident in everything that you're saying, it certainly gets a lot easier. But yeah, I'll never forget that. I'm glad we don't have that on video. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's bad, I'm sure.
I'm sure mine was too. I don't actually remember my first class or first coaching moment so long ago, but the process is probably not that much different for new coaches now. I mean, obviously they go through some shadowing and stuff like that. And I think you probably did some shadowing as well, but once it's time to coach, and we got to throw you in. And
yeah, it's one of those things that I will tell you this about coaching too, is I remember when I wasn't coaching, and at the time, you were coaching a lot of classes, Shana was coaching a lot of classes, and she would coach some classes and like just tell me how exhausted she was, and at the time I didn't know any better, and I was like, well, you only coached
yeah, you only coach two or three hours
classes.
Yeah.
And now it's like emotionally, and it's tiring.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exhausting, and I get it. It's I love it, and it takes a lot of energy that you don't necessarily see, but from a coaching standpoint, it takes a lot of energy to run a class.
So why did you decide you wanted to be a gym owner, and then why did you decide you wanted to start coaching?
So the timing of everything, the business that I was in was not a great point in my life. It was, the industry overall was sort of dying, honestly. And because it was a family business, I, wanted to keep it going.
Right.
Held on to it as long as I could, even though, my dad had told me, he said, yeah, this, it was probably time to let it go like 3 years before I did.
Right.
Maybe even before then. But it was killing me. Like, I was working long hours. There was very little reward, very little life. And so I just kind of fell into it. I needed something to kind of get in shape. And Patrick Lockman at the time had told me about, he was working out there. And so I just kind of fell in love with the whole thing. I didn't set out to all right, I'm going to look for a new career. It just kind of unfolded and all worked out. So, and as far as coaching, honestly, I don't remember. I think maybe part of that was out of necessity. Hey, we need you to coach some classes, and it's not my nature to stand in front of people. So I always like to be the background person. I like to make things happen and set things up and be supportive. So it wasn't something that I particularly wanted to do. And then once I got more comfortable with it, I started enjoying it a lot more. So
yeah, I mean, like you were talking about the necessity of having to do it yourself. As an entrepreneur, that's just the nature of it. We relied heavily on you for a long time for operational stuff. When the time came when we needed coaching, it's like, all right, well, let's keep this internal as well. And Matt can coach. And then, over the last few years, it's like we do so much of the coaching, or we even got into a situation where we're doing too much coaching, and not being able to actually like work on the business itself.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's so exhausting to be a coach. Like you put so much energy into, those 10 or 12 people that you can't spend another ounce of your energy doing the other things. And so getting a good staff and getting good coaches in is just huge for us. So it's like the coaches we have are great. We appreciate all of them stepping up over the last few months to help us with the online training as we're moving forward into the new gym, all the help we're going to get for that as well. I cut you off earlier about your first workout, and so I would actually like to hear about that.
Oh yeah, at the old gym. So, and I'm not 100% clear if it was first or second. It was definitely the first 3 workouts. The first one, again, I remember it was Brooke and Shayna, but I remember coming in the first week, and there is a workout that we did this week called Karen,
Right.
which is 150 wall balls, and that's it. Well, I showed up for class. We were a smaller space, a little, smaller clientele at the time. I was the only member there. I was the only one there, and Shayna was the coach. So if you know Shayna, and this just how this went, it was me. I had a terrible time squatting because I just first started, so I wasn't getting away with anything. I was in not one squat was I, so right there next to me the whole time, 150 reps. It was so painful, but I'll never forget it. So it was, yeah. So I was going to ask you about specifically 185, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have, I know it's, as we were, even last night when I left, it's almost empty. You really start to feel kind of nostalgic and think back over the last 9 years. And, a lot has happened, So I don't know if there's any funny events or anything that stands out for you.
I mean, for me, I always, I'm an idea guy. I have a lot of ideas and write them all down. And I've got just notepad after notepad here of things that I've done or wanted to do or whatever, and forget about them. So for a long time, I would just sit here and plan competitions, workout ideas, like maybe how this could be fun, or this could be fun, or this would be hard, or, and so the competitions that we've held and the challenges that we've held have been particularly memorable for me. So like the various intramurals we did, team competitions, and people dressing up, and having 100 people at the gym, and maybe there's 8 teams, but they brought all their family members to come cheer them on. So it's been cool to have those competitions and bring outsiders in to cheer on our current members, and then also just like the projects, like the building the pull-up bars, the building that freaking platform
that we're tearing down now. We spent I don't even know how many days we spent on that.
Oh yeah, weeks probably. And building the closet, installing a water heater, things like that.
We have done a lot of projects there for sure.
Yeah, they just the jerk blocks, building the jerk blocks. And
I mean, usually people leave buildings. I mean, I feel like we're leaving this building in so much better shape than we found it. Like,
right.
They should be, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also feel like what you were saying about the events is like doing the intramural events that we started here for the Open. I feel pretty confident that no one puts that on like we do. I mean, I think we do. I think it's so much fun the way we do it.
Yeah.
We have fun with it. And we kind of started doing that in this space, which is great. Obviously we'll take that with us, but that was, that was fun.
There's probably no individual moments as far as, interactions with our clientele, because it's like you said, it's 9 years here. It's so many, but helping people hit a PR, or even the PR isn't that important to me. It's really like seeing the switch go off in someone's mind, or like, oh, this is how it was supposed to be. This is how I was supposed to move, or this is how it feels to lift this weight in the right way. It's like seeing those light bulb moments are super important to me. And so that's really honestly what keeps me going is those moments of understanding and appreciation.
Yeah, I agree. It's again, it goes back to it's about the people. It's at the end of the day, it's just a building. We're gonna make the same memories in our new space. We did it in the old space, so for me, yeah, it absolutely is just the people that I've met and seen come in and out of there for all these years.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast.
All right, and thanks for having me.
We're gonna go do a bunch more work.
Yeah.
I appreciate everything you've done over the last 10 years to help grow the gym. And so hopefully we'll keep growing for another 10 years.
Yep, absolutely.